Cavalier Poetry by David Silverberg. Overview. Cavalier poets were a school of 17th century English poets who came from classes that supported King Charles I. Most of their poetry was light in style and generally secular in subject. Charles was a connoisseur of the fine arts, and he supported poets who created the art that he craved. These poets in turn grouped themselves with the king and his service. To a Cavalier poet, enjoying life was more important than following laws and rules. The attitude of these poets was often carefree, ignorant, dismissive, and nonchalant. Most poets were courtiers, meaning that they attended a royal court as a companion or advisor to the king or queen. Main characteristics and intent. Cavalier poetry is different from traditional poetry in its subject matter. Instead of focusing on issues like religion, philosophy, and the arts, Cavalier poetry focused on expressing the simple joy and gratification of celebratory things. The intent of Cavalier poets' work was to promote King Charles I and to speak against the Roundheads who supported the rebellion against King Charles I. Cavalier poems celebrated beauty, love, nature, sensuality, drinking, good fellowship, honor, and social life. Major poets from the movement. Robert Herrick, a 17th century poet most famously known for Hesperides, a book of poems. Richard Lovelace, fought in the Civil War on behalf of King Charles I. His best-known works are To Althea from Prison and To Locusta, Going to the Warrens. Ben Jonson was an English playwright, poet, actor, and literary critic of the 17th century. His artistry exerted a long-lasting impact upon English poetry and stage comedy. This is the poem On My First Son by Ben Jonson. Farewell, thou child of my right hand and joy. My sin was too much hope of thee, loved boy. 7 years thou wert lent to me, and I thee pay, exacted by thy fate on the just day. Oh, could I lose all father now? For why will man lament the stage he should envy? To have so soon escaped worlds and flesh's rage, and if no other misery, yet age. Rest in soft peace, and asked say, here doth lie Ben Jonson his best piece of poetry, for whose sake henceforth all his vows be such, as what he loves may never like too much. Poem explication, lines 1 through 2. The poem begins with the speaker saying farewell to his child. The speaker then says that his mistake, was that he had too much hope for his son. Ben Jonson's son was named Benjamin. In the Hebrew language, Benjamin means son of right hand, which is why the speaker says child of my right hand in the poem. Lines 3 through 4. The speaker says that his son was only 7 years old when he died. He says his son was lent to him, and now it is time for him to return to heaven. I pay thee means that the speaker must now pay back his son. He describes the day as just, which is odd because most people wouldn't consider death fair or just. The speaker then says it is just for his child to die because he believes that the child was a loan from God. Lines 5 to 6. The speaker is wishing that he could abandon all thoughts of fatherhood because he is so upset. The idea of fatherhood will never be the same for him after the passing of his son. He then asks why people get upset about death. In reality, they should desire achieving the state of death. Lines 7 through 8. The speaker says that people should envy death because those who are dead don't have to deal with the pains of the world or body, flesh's rage. He also says that even if the dead haven't really escaped from anything, at least they have escaped or avoided the pains of old age. Lines 9 through 10. The speaker tells his son to rest in peace and gives his son advice. He calls his son his best piece of poetry. This is a metaphor because the speaker refers to his son as a work of art. Lines 11 through 12. The speaker concludes the poem by making a vow that states that he will never like too much the things he loves. This means that if he loves something, he promises not to love it too much because you never know when it will be taken away. He doesn't want to hurt again like he did in this instance.